Particularly, how do we interpret spiritual consolation and spiritual desolation? Those are the signs of the inner times, if you want. And we have to note here that depression is not the same thing as desolation. It's an important distinction just now when depression is so broad, widespread. 11th, we will have talked about content and process, the seeker and the giver of direction. So now we can address direction itself, the various levels, intensities, and forms of spiritual direction that are available in the church today. Of the ways of looking at them, I have taken to dividing them into 5. I start with spiritual friendship, then the formality of spiritual companioning, and further along of spiritual guiding. Then our tradition tells us a great deal about spiritual direction in the strict sense. Notice the common usage right now is to talk about spiritual direction to cover all of these senses, and I will continue using it that way. But when I talk about the great tradition in the church, I'll talk about spiritual direction in the strict sense. Then finally, the 5th kind is spiritual formation. That's the kind of direction that Thomas Merton was given when he first entered Gethsemane. The final presentation re-immerses us emphatically into the world we live in. It must, because spiritual direction happens in the church in the world. We are the church and we are in the world. Well, in this world that we live in, Scripture tells us there are 4 fairly clearly distinct ways of living a spiritual life, an interior life: the world, the flesh, the devil, and Christ life. They all have their manifestations, but they are all a way of having an intimate purpose in life.